Hello everyone and welcome to Senior Susie Stamps. I wanted to follow up with this little reject card that I made last week, and several of you made some suggestions on what I could do with it, and they were all very good, I might add. But I happened to be in the Dollar Tree today and saw this pink gift bag, and I thought, it might work. So I bought a little package, they're 3 for $1.25, and I brought it home, and I noticed this little tiny yellow flower. So I put some yellow flowers on my little gift bag, and I put a little yellow flower on the back, and now it's a nice tag. So that's the end of the story on this card. Let's get started for today. I'm still working off these scraps that I was using last week, and I've got some fun cards to show you shortly. But I have taped them together just with some regular Scotch tape on the back. And this was 2 pieces. And this was 2 pieces that didn't go together at all. This is a little bit of washi tape, and this is some washi tape. I got this washi tape from Amazon, I guess last year now sometime. If I can still find it, I'll leave a link to it, because there's some really pretty washi stickers in here. I don't know if you can see this, but we'll use some of them today. So I thought we would see just what we can do with some taped together scraps today. Okay? Well, let's get started, because I've already started on this one. Let's keep working on that just a little bit. Now, I have this box that I started early this spring that has little bits and pieces of some paper that I designed and just stuff in it. This is some Sudoku puzzle that I put some coffee dye on, and these are just some strips of maps that I tore up. And just when I had a little spare time, I thought, well, I'll just make some little things that I could pull for tags or for card focals or whatever. So I went through there and I pulled a few little things out, and I've got them over here. And so I was thinking maybe a little bit of some circles on there might be kind of interesting. And we're just going to work through this kind of as a process video to see just what we can do when we're not overthinking something. This is a piece of that was tissue paper, I think. It may have been a paper napkin that I stamped, but I believe this was some tissue paper, and I just glued it to some green paper, and I thought maybe those little strips there might kind of come in handy. And a piece of this little Sudoku puzzle. Numbers are always just so much fun, aren't they? Let's glue these pieces on and see. I am going to use... Let me get my book. Hang on. I'm going to use some glue stick today, because for these little tiny pieces, I think sometimes glue stick's just the way to go. And I like to save old, like this is a Sudoku book that I finished some time ago. At any rate, I kind of like to use something as a glue book sometimes. And I think just to kind of help cover up that line right there, we'll put that down there and keep gluing these down, and then we'll see what kind of a card we can make out of it. I've got, I think, 3 cards and a tag over here to show you later. I normally start some Christmas cards in July, and I was in such a mojo slump that I didn't feel like starting them this year. And so I have a few Christmas cards to show you today that I think are going to be fun. So let's set that one aside and work on maybe this one next. And I'll use a little more numbers on it. Numbers are always just a fun addition, I think. Anytime you can add some numbers to a project, your brain just kind of like zones into them and says, ooh, I wonder what that was all about. And so that's what we're doing here. Just adding a little mental interest to this piece that we're probably just going to end up cutting up, to be honest with you. So here we go. And I'm going to cut that off and use that tiny little tail down at the bottom. Hang on. No point in having a little scrap like that tossed into the bin, is there? I don't think so. So we'll just end up using it right down here. And I'm going to put some of these circles on here, I think, also. I reached my mud glue here, so that's what we'll go for. When I'm doing this kind of project, which is kind of like a little mini collage, you can't overthink things. Because if you do, you start second guessing yourself. And then you end up thinking, oh, well, this is not worth fooling with. And you run the risk of possibly tossing out a piece that really would be interesting in the final glory of that piece. So let's see what else we can do here. I think I'll put this one on as well, and then we'll kind of call that one done for the moment. I think we'll go this way, right like that, and I'll hope it sticks to the top of that washi tape. So let's try this little piece here. I believe I'll put some of these green pieces on there. And there's one. And maybe look through here and see if we can find something that just reaches out and grabs at us. How about this one? And I'm going to put this other one on, coming down from the other side. And we'll just bring it right over top of that. That says to Lily. My grandmother's name was Lillian, and they called her Lily. Scooch over there a little bit. And then I'm just going to use these plain. These came out of some just very vanilla type paper. It's cardstock. Let's see if we can find one more something in the green. How about this one? And like I said, we're not going to overthink this. And I may turn this one that way. And trim it off. And put this piece maybe right here, and that will be fine, right like that. Now I'm going to turn these over and trim them off just a little bit, but I'm also going to use my bone folder, my Teflon bone folder, and really burnish those down well, because as I said, this is kind of a hodgepodge piece that I have put back together after having been in several pieces, and it's always a good idea to make sure that what you're working with structurally is kind of sound when you're starting out like this. So let me put my glue book away because I think we're through with that. Oh, if you're looking for a good glue stick, this Pioneer photo glue stick, I really, really like this one, and if I can think about it, I'll put a link to it in Amazon. They're not the cheapest glue stick now, I will say that, but they really, they do a good job for you. Okay. So what I'm thinking is, because this has a little yellow in it, I pulled some of these little die-cut flowers out, and I think I might use them, or at least one of them, on this piece, and possibly two of them. So let's start with this little guy here. And I'm going to see, it's 2.5 inches. I'm going to look at my layer chart, and 2.5 inches would be a 3 3/4 inch cut on the other side to have a layer that is a standard A2 size layer then. So 2.5 by 3 3/4. And that's where I want to start with this piece. And I believe I'm going to cut it a little bit long and trim both sides. There we go. Because I kind of like having those little circles sort of cut off like that a little bit. I'll save these, and if I don't use them today, I'll put them back in that little bin, because those are very interesting little pieces. Looks like I need to trim just a touch here off. Now, I'm going to do a real simple corner treatment on this. And this is an old Stampin' Up! Punch, and it kind of scallops the edge. And I like to punch mine upside down, because sometimes they get a little off. And if you look at them upside down, then they trim out much better than if you have to go back and punch them again and again to get them to work right. So that kind of has a little bit of a ticket shape. Now, I want to put a little brown edge around that, I think. Let's do that. And I have a little sponge dauber here that I've used for brown and black. So who knows what color who knows what color this is actually going to be. But it looks like it's kind of brownish to me. There we go. I'm going to put that out of the way. And I'm going to get a card base. And let's just see how this is going to look on there. And you can already see now, because this is one of the A2 size layers, you have a nice even border all the way around it. And so your white space here, it isn't quite so overwhelming on the card. And once you add a little die cut in there to that, and I think, and maybe bring this one kind of up straight some. Let's glue this one down flat, and then put the other one up on just a little bit of foam, and see where we go with this card. And what I'm trying to do is leave the dragonfly and a little bit of that circle, not necessarily the whole thing, but just a little bit there. There we go. And now I'm going to put this piece up on some foam right here. But before I do that, you know what I'm thinking? I think some pen work on that might just be the thing to do. And I've got my black pen here. It's this Pigma Micron 01. And I think we'll just add a little bit of lines in here. They don't have to be complicated. None of these cards have to be complicated at all. And I think I'm going to add a little outline to this torn edge here, because that's interesting. And then this piece, and then this little piece. There we go. And maybe I'll go back and add a second line in just to kind of give it a little more depth there. And it'll look like it was meant to be there. And your eye has a little something interesting then to look at. I'm going to go ahead and outline this one and get the underside of this little piece of Sudoku paper. There. Now, that has a little more depth to it, and it pulls those things up off the page just a little bit. I am going to put this up on some foam because I think it's going to need just a little bit of lift off of that page. And I'm going to put 2 large pieces of foam on this to help the structure of it. This is a top fold card base. On these kind of cards, I kind of like to have them on hand as thinking of you sorts of things, because they just seem to be of that nature a little bit to me. So I'm wondering, I really don't want to cover that up too much, so I may have to just come right down the middle with this one. And I need some smaller pieces of foam for that. So I have some old little foam things here that I've been trying to use up. So let's just use some of them up. Let's just see what we can do here. Looks like I am going to have to end up covering up a little bit of stuff here, which is unfortunate. So I think we'll do a little bit of maybe right here like that. There, and that leaves us a little spot for a sentiment. Now, let me go and get my sentiment notebook and we'll see if we can find a little... Oh, I've got something in this drawer here. I think I found one. Never let go of your dreams. I think some people feel like because they don't act on their dreams in life that they should throw them away. I don't feel that way. I think we should all have dreams in life, and if we don't act on them, that's okay. We can still have them and enjoy them and keep them for our own personal use. So let's put that right there at the bottom. And this card, I think, would benefit from just a little bit of some diamond dots because they are not really super shiny. And they come in a bazillion colors. Let me try to get that straight. Okay. I need some diamond dots on that, I'm sure. I like this darker one, I think. Let's go with it. Let me get a little tray here and put some of these diamond dots out in it. There's one. There. I think that card is well on its way to being a beautiful card, but I think it needs just a little something more to help tie those bits and pieces all together. And let's just see. I have some chompers here, and they have a little stub on them that will adjust these corners on the card so that it will kind of match the little ticket that I've got going here. There we go. And then maybe we'll do the outside edge just a little bit. And that card is finished. Okay, let's look at this other one and see what we got. This one I think we'll do something totally different with it. I like both of these. Let me know if you like this type of just small type of collage, because I think these are really interesting, and I like that, and I can see a black silhouette. So I think I'll finish this one off camera because I'll have to kind of tweak it just a little bit, but I'm thinking black silhouette die cut on this one. However, I want to go on with this particular piece and show you something that I've been working on that I think is a lot of fun, and I hope you will too. So this piece is 2.5 inches wide, and what I want is a piece that is 2 inches wide. So I'm going to take 1/2 inch off of this, and I think I'm going to take it in quarters, 1/4 off of each side, so that I don't lose too much of either side that way. And now I'm going to cut this to 3 1/4 inches. No, I'm going to cut this to 4 inches, I'm sorry. And again, I'm going to trim both ends of this so that we have something interesting to look at on both ends. So 4, and there we go. So there's that piece, and these little guys are going to go back in my little bin over here. And now I'm going to take this piece and cut it so that I cut from here to the center line, which is 1 inch. And let's just go ahead and do that by putting this point on the 1 inch. And actually I'm going to do it the other way, because that way I'm not cutting into a very narrow point. I'm ending up my cut on the narrow point. So here we go. There's one. And then I'm going to cut the other side off as well. And this one, there's kind of no way to avoid that. There we go. Now I'm going to take this piece and glue it back together. And here we go. And I told you that I had been working on some Christmas cards, and every year I like to kind of come up with some kind of a little scrap Christmas card. And this year, these are my scrap Christmas cards to start the year out. So what I'm finding is it's kind of fun to have a couple of them on the front of the card. And in this case, that's all we've got, so that's what we're going to use. And I'm going to look for a little piece of scrap that I can make the trunk out of my little, and I think this will work beautifully. And I only want it to be about 1/2 inch wide. So let's see, this is 2 3/4, so I'm going to cut this to 2 1/4. There we go. Now I'm going to get a piece of scratch paper here, because I'm going to do a little ink drag on my trunk here. And we're going to use brown. And this is why we use a piece of scrap, because it doesn't matter what you do to it at this point. There we go. And I want to use my little foam dauber here and put a little brown around the outside of these trees, just to give them a little bit more definition off the page. And there's one. And we may need to cut one of them a little shorter, but we'll see. Let me wipe my fingers off. I've got a baby wipe up here in the top of my drawer here. They're a little tropical, aren't they? And I think we'll do this one down first. And what I want to do is to cut my tree trunks a little bit long and maximize however much tree trunk I can possibly get on this tree. And I believe I don't want to cut any more of this off because these are some interesting elements here on this. So I'm going to just put some glue down. And unfortunately, I'm gluing right on top of that tape, so it may not hold very well. But that's all right because we'll put glue all the way down on this one. And I'm just going to let that dry for a second. Isn't that a cool tree? I just think they're fun, 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 fun. Yeah. All right. Now, we'll go ahead and put some glue. And I am going to glue this a little heavier than normal because there's quite a bit of tape on this. There we go. I want to leave just enough room up there for a star. And I want to get the bottom of my tree level. And I think that will do it. It looks like I've got some stuff right there. We'll see if we can get that to kind of go away. And I noticed I should have turned my card over, so let me trim this just a touch. Because I had just a little bit left there. There. Now, that looks better. And on this tree, we are going to put that up on some foam. Now, what I want to do is elevate this up and set my trunk underneath it, and then I'll pull the trunk back up and glue it down. Does that make sense? So I think we just do it like this. And maybe right about like that. Oh, I don't like that. Let me see if I can get this to come up just a little bit. I didn't notice that. Maybe we'll... Well, all right, there's another way to do this, and that is to trim off just a little bit of that. Go back and color the bottom again and pull my tree trunk off and put it back on. There we go. Now we don't have them quite so redundant, do we? There. And that gives us a nice spot then for a little star. And I have a star punch here. And somewhere in this madness, I have, here it is. I have some gold glitter paper, which makes fabulous little Christmas tree stars. And here we are. I'm just going to glue this one down flat and try to pick this little point up just a tiny bit. Not much. Don't need much. Maybe we'll just put it over the top of this one because it's not pulling up. There's the start of that now. Now I want to do a little bit of, I think, ink work around the outside of this card also, just to give it a little more kind of nighttime feel to it a little bit. And then we're going to put some little dazzles on for snowflakes. And this card will be done, except for a sentiment. And I'm just going to put a basic Merry Christmas on it. There's the start of that now. I have some of these little dazzles. These are called Round Jewels Dazzles, and they're in white with a silver trim on them, so they go nicely with those little silver stars that we put on them. And I'm just going to put some snowflakes around and about here. Maybe some large ones and some smaller ones. One thing about these things, sometimes they pop off and you can't see them anywhere. And then all of a sudden you'll be downstairs watching TV and find it on your kneecap or something silly like that. Have y'all ever had that happen to you? Don't tell me I'm the only one, because I won't believe you. I won't believe you. This kind of stuff can get a little tedious sometimes. We'll put one up here, maybe a couple more on there, don't you think? Over on this side somewhere. There. There we go. And just a little simple Merry Christmas sentiment, and this card's done. Let me show you the rest of these that I've got. I haven't quite figured out what it is about these cards that I am enamored with. Now, this is a mini slimline card, and I don't know if you can see it or not, but I put some glitter glue garland on that one and a little pen outline on that. And that one has a little gift tag that goes with it because I just happen to have enough scrap paper on that one. And then there's this one that has some pink, which is very similar to the one that we just did. And this one is the very first one that I did, and it's a little on the wild side. But you know what? The more I look at this card, I just think this card is interesting to me. At any rate, there it is. So, and our little card that we started with. Just another way to think about using up some strip scraps in your studio by taping them back together and using them in a very small little minute collage that you can cut apart then and save parts to for future reference. And something like this with some some commercially made die cuts, it's an easy card to put together and utilize. But I hope you like these little Christmas cards. I think they're fun. And I'll talk to you again next week. Have a great week, y'all. Bye.